Welcome back to the channel, guys. This is VIN0316, VIN316. This is a 2016 1J2, which is liquid platinum or just silver with LA20 interior, which is the standard black interior with carbon fiber trim. Popped up on Facebook Marketplace for $45,000 with 83,000 miles. The owner of this car reached out to me via email and fan mail, and I got a letter in my P.O. box about this car. And so we've kind of been back and forth for a few weeks. So obviously the price on this, I had something to do with, and I think it's where it's at, it's priced very fair for the mileage, and it does have a few mods, and I'll get into that here in a bit. First and foremost, production statistics. Liquid platinum is a pretty rare color. 152 out of the 2,348 cars I've identified for the US 49, so everywhere except Hawaii, were liquid platinum. So only 152 cars. Out of those 152, only 90 had LA20 black interior. Specific to 2016, there's only 116 cars out of the 1,418 cars that were liquid platinum. Of those, only 68 had LA20 interior, which is the black interior. So this car is one of 68. It's a common color combination for liquid platinum, but it's still on the rarer side of cars. So common combo, but rarer color. Carfax, Epic VIN, and AutoCheck. So Carfax shows this as a 2-owner, 0-accident car. Epic VIN shows this as a 3-owner, 0-accident car, and I'm not sure why. I don't put a lot of weight into Epic VIN's ownership reporting. And AutoCheck shows this as a 2-owner, no-accident car. So I think it's safe to assume that this is a 2-owner, no-accident car. So previous sales. It looks like the current owner of it has owned this car basically since 2016, and it first went on sale in December of 2015. It sold in December of 2015, maybe that Lexus December to Remember event, who knows. But it wasn't registered until February of 2016, and then it was listed for sale first in March of 2016 for $83,000 with 2,700 miles in Missouri. So St. Louis area. So it looks like whoever owned it, it could have been like a dealership owner that owned it or something like that, but it was sold L certified, Lexus certified pre-owned at that time. In April of 2016, it was still for sale. They dropped the price down to $80,000, and it looks like it's sold, as I said, L certified in May of 2016, first registered in September of 2016. So, these cars didn't sell well when they were new. They sat around for a while until the price was right, and so it looks like that's obviously what was the case here. And then the next time it came up for sale is now on Facebook Marketplace. And the most recent time it's been listed is here in October of 2025 on Facebook Marketplace, $45,000 with 83,500 miles. So now onto the photos. So the seller does state that the car has wireless Android Auto and CarPlay. I believe it said it's a BeatSonic unit, so BeatSonic, Lexion, those are both good options. It has a bunch of Tom's parts, and Tom's is a Japanese company that makes a bunch of cosmetic and otherwise mods for these cars. So it has a Tom's strut brace, it has a fuel cap cover, a start button, a bunch of small mods like that, but those are not inexpensive either. And he also does state that it has a dash cam. So it looks like it doesn't have any carbon fiber delamination that I can see. I also don't see anywhere in the service history where any of that has been replaced. So that is, food for thought. Maybe in the future you may have some issues, but right now it's not delaminating. It does have some chips on the front, and that's pretty much in line with the car that's 15,000 miles away from having 100,000 miles on it. The carbon fiber trim on the front bumper is kind of beat up, and I'm not surprised there because the car doesn't appear to have any paint protection film on the front. It does have a few chips and a little scrape on the front and on the top of the rear bumper, likely from removing something along those lines. But overall, for the mileage, very clean looking. And it is a 2-owner, no-accident car, which you've heard me talk about in other videos. There are less than 1,000 of these cars here in October of 2025 that are clean title, no accidents. So this is one of those cars. So the price. Obviously, I had a little to do with this. Looking at market research and current market trends and everything like that, $45,000 is a fair price for this car. I would put it kind of in the area of the $45,000 to $48,000. So this is definitely listed on the lower end, but it doesn't really need anything. And so we'll get into the service history and see if there is really anything that this car needs. I think where it's priced is perfect for the market right now. I think it will not sit around very long and it will sell pretty quickly. So with that said, let's look at the service history and see what else, if anything, this car still needs. Service history, this car looks exclusively Lexus dealer serviced. And so it really can't get much better than that. I said, looking on the Carfax, matching it up with the service records on the My Lexus service history, this thing is pretty much Lexus service. As good as you're gonna find for a dealer service car. So the first entry of note is June of 2016. Looks like the navigation went black and they had to hard reset it to get it to come back. And I have seen a couple other service histories where that's happened, and usually there's actually some like hardware issues or something like that, but that doesn't seem to be the case here. August of 2016, it looks like the glove box was repaired or refinished as a goodwill gesture for them, so no cost to the owner. Looks like a little later though, April of 2017, they just swapped glove box covers with another car. And there was also a note that the AC was not blowing cold, and it was turned off in the navigation. So I don't know, maybe some menu deep down buried, it had it turned off as opposed to just the regular button, the physical button you have to turn it on and off, but may have been related to that hard reset earlier. October of 2017, I can't say that I've seen this before. They were doing the low pressure fuel pump reprogramming and they bricked the ECM. So it actually they had to replace the ECM, and I would assume it's also been reprogrammed or it had the current software for the low pressure fuel pump reprogramming. But that is the first time I've seen that, when a dealer is actually doing the low pressure fuel pump reprogramming. So good to see that it was replaced, but interesting to see nonetheless. April of 2018, the JLB recall was done. So most of these cars have that done. That's the high pressure fuel pump recall. So this car has new high pressure fuel pumps. January of 2020, the KLG customer service campaign was done. That is the GPS firmware update. Basically, if you're driving on the main highway, it shows you off on the side or vice versa, something like that. So that's just an update, and most of these cars have had that done by now, so good to see that's also done. March of 22, at 60,000 miles, this 60,000 mile service. So again, everything kind of in line so far, well sorted. Spark plugs replaced, 60,000 mile service done at 60,000 miles. June of 24, both rear shocks were noted as leaking and were replaced. Not very common to see on the 2016s. Usually you see that on the 17 through 20s that have the adaptive damping shocks, but on the 16s, I wouldn't say that's common, but you have new rear shocks on this car. May of 2025, the lower control arm bushings were inspected and found to be in working order. No issues, cracking, anything like that. The owner of this car, he watches this channel, so he's learned what to look for, especially when you're about to put your car up for sale. So kudos to him, and I'm glad that it was checked, and no worries for the inner tire wear, things like that for now. And that was about 80,000 miles. August of 2025, at 81,000 miles, the water pump was noted as leaking and was replaced along with the belt. Not super common to see at 80,000 miles, but it may be more of an age-related thing because the water pump seal may start giving way, something like that. But good to see it's done, and you don't have to worry about that. And September of 2025, which is just a month ago, 82,000 miles, noted as it needs front pads and rotors, and also that the rear tires are getting low, down to 430 seconds. It says the rotors are on back order and that customer will schedule. So hopefully the owner will have those replaced before you buy this car. If not, then expect to replace front brakes and probably the rear tires. But it definitely looks well sorted. It has the recall done, it has the low pressure fuel pump reprogrammed, it has all of the common issues, except I don't see anything about the valley plate, which that's getting around the time and age to expect that. And so if it's not leaking now, expect it in the future that you may have to replace the valley plate on this car. Don't see any replacement about any of the carbon fiber, although right now it doesn't appear that it needs it. However, in the future, you may have some carbon fiber trim that needs to be replaced. The ZLZ is the customer service campaign for the cracked, delaminating, deforming, sticky dash, which is covered from 10 years from the in-service date of this car. So you've still got probably another year left on that. If not, that can get expensive once it's outside of that. You're talking about a couple $1,000s. The part itself is not very expensive, but there's a lot of labor to remove and replace the dash. While you're doing that, not a bad idea to replace the HVAC servos, but that's something you cross when you get to it. You can say the owner did have the lower control arm bushings inspected, so no issues at that time. So that was just a couple months ago. So I would fully suspect that there's no issues immediately. This is a car, it sounds like it's well sorted, it's dealer serviced, you can just jump in and drive it. Depending on how picky you are, this car being from Missouri, Illinois, kind of that area in the Midwest, if it was winter driven. He does say in the for sale ad it comes with winter tires, so I don't know how winter driven it is, so it may just be worth checking out underneath and seeing how crusty or not it is on any of the hardware. Fully expect like the differential to have some surface rust on it, things like that, but you know, that's something that obviously the person who's selling it would have an answer for. So finally, would I buy this car? Absolutely. Extremely well dealer serviced. It's already pretty much sorted except for maybe brakes and or rear tires, depending on if the seller replaces those or not. But I don't see any red flags. You may have to put some money aside for the valley plate in the future, maybe some of the carbon fiber trim, but it looks like a great car to just jump in and drive. It's already ready to go. And this is not gonna be one of those that's gonna be collector quality in the future because it's already got a bunch of miles on it. But it's a great one to just jump in and enjoy and go drive. So for me, I think it's great where it's priced. I think it'll sell pretty quickly at this. You know, it definitely looks like a great one to go check out. So look for it on Facebook Marketplace around the Ohio area and or Auto Trader if it ever makes it that far. But that's what I've got for you guys. VIN 0316 316. Thanks again for watching. We'll see you soon.